Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had so many questions. How do I record an episode? Where do I find background music? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? Where do I find advertisers? The answer to every one of those questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and 100% ridiculously easy to use. Let me tell y'all. Everybody keeps asking me, what do I do to podcast? I'm telling you, the answer is Anchor. They created my RSS feed. They gave me my first 2 sponsors that you're now hearing on this podcast. I want you to know that I believe in Anchor. I've grown with this platform since February, and I'm going to continuously grow with this platform. So if you always wanted to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 10th podcast on the Walk by Faith Show. The mission is simple. It's a podcast that simply highlights entrepreneurs globally in whatever field that they're doing in order to increase and empower our community. I want this information that I distribute to reflect minorities that are disrupting their industry to make progressive change within their community. We know that information is limited based on their zip code, especially in rural areas where survival is the main message. I'm your host, The Pretty Plug, and I inform the uninformed through entrepreneurial journalism. By now, we have covered many topics such as physical health entrepreneurship, life coaching globally, building businesses using your own unique playbooks, and becoming unapologetic in your craft and gifts that God gave you. One topic that we haven't covered is building a millionaire mindset while mastering real estate and investing. Luckily for the Walk by Faith family, we have a very, very special guest, none other than Miss Dr. Roberta Hoskie, who is a guru in both. Now, how are you doing today, Dr. Roberta?
I am doing very, very well. I am super excited to be on this podcast today, so I'm doing well.
Okay, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I thought, actually one of my friends from work told me, hey, you need to check out her Instagram and what she's doing. I think she'll be really great for your podcast. So I was like, okay, I reached out. So guys, I just tell you, like, you never have to meet somebody, but if you have that faith to just reach out on Instagram or whatever channels that you have, you know, you can really meet and talk to whoever you want. The world is connected in so many great places.
Absolutely.
So, I just want to, again, thank you, Roberta, and we're not going to waste any more time. Dr. Roberta, can you give us a brief background on who you are and what you bring to the world with all of your gifts and talents?
Oh, wow. I like that. I love that question. That's a good opening. Who am I? Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, right now I am the president of Outreach Realty Services, which is a real estate brokerage licensed in the state of Connecticut, and we help people buy, sell real estate, rehab properties, first-time home buyers, seminars, and things of that nature. I'm also the president of Outreach School of Real Estate, which is a real estate school licensed in the state of Connecticut and 11 other reciprocal states as well. We train real estate professionals to become realtors as well as investing, creating multiple streams of income with real estate. Also am the managing member of MET Construction Management, which is owned by my teenage children, and RH Development Partners, where we're developing, rehabbing, flipping properties in low and moderate income family neighborhoods. And last and certainly not least, I am the chieftain and founder of the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood, which is an international faith-based sisterhood devoted to breaking what we call the poverty curse. But before I had any of those titles, and that's all they are, titles, and before I had any of that, I was a single mother on welfare getting $417 a month and even found myself in a homeless situation. So there is absolutely nothing impossible. So I love what you're doing. I love what this show represents, because this is a platform for God to do what he does, and that's show forth his testimony, so that it can be encouraging for other people who are going through or looking for some hope. But that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, Dr. Roberta. Oh my gosh. And for you going from $417 a month, I know your monthly income has probably quadrupled that. And that's just by no point of our own, but just by what God can do in and through us. So I just want to start from the beginning with childhood. You know, what were some of the things that happened as you were growing up, and what adversities did you face? Because I know that some of the people that listen, they're also in their youth. They're also up and coming. So what are some things that you did, or what happened in your life? What adversities did you have to go through?
Well, you know, Jasmine, I just finished writing my book that will be coming out in May, right after my sisterhood gala. And the book is called The Poverty Curse Broken, the Roberta Hoskie story. And that's a powerful, powerful book. And in this book, I start and I talk a lot about growing up. And it was a very challenging thing to do, to write this book, because it forced me to look in my past and as my childhood. And there were some things that were very good, but some things that were very disappointing. I did not have the best relationship with my mother, which I love her dearly. We have a great relationship now, but growing up, it was very hard. I was kicked out the house multiple times. I was a fighter. I was always fighting with people. Just was misplaced emotion. My father left home when I was 8. I was a daddy's girl, and all of a sudden, daddy didn't come home anymore. Found myself being bullied. I was being bullied, and then I became the bully. So there was a lot of challenges. We didn't have much at all. We were on food stamps. I remember my mother had colored food stamps. So green was a $10 bill. I think purple was a $5 bill. Brown was a white dollar bill. And I remember having food stamps and block cheese and just having a hard time financially. One thing that sticks out to me that I always remember growing up is I was always a smart person. I was very smart. I was always the head of my class when I wanted to be smart, when I applied myself. But I remember being in the New Haven Register. The first time I was in a newspaper, I was on the cover of the New Haven Register, and I was in 8th grade. And I was happy to be in the register, but I pulled out what I thought was my best clothes at the time, and ended up on the front page of the register. And I pulled out my best shoes, but the best shoes had a hole in it. And so I was on the cover of a paper with a big picture all over New Haven with a big hole in my shoe, and those children were brutal. So going to school and going from the emotion of being super happy about being in the newspaper, then getting to school and being bullied and crying and just esteem being rock bottom, because here you are with holes in your shoes. And things became real, and I knew that the life that I was living when I get to age to be able to control my money, that I was not going to ever have holes in my shoe again. And that is why I have a closet full of tons of shoes. But a lot of adversity, we have family with addiction, alcoholism, and all of the above. So there's a lot of challenges. So when we talk about breaking what I call the poverty curse, the poverty curse is not just money, it's generational curses and generational things that happen in our family that we must break free of, so that we can be the person that God has designed for us to be.
Okay, and taking that next point with generational curses, can you speak about breaking that generational curse with your son?
Yeah, Jesus, Lord have mercy. That's a good question. I love your questions. I like this. Breaking a generational curse with my son. So my family, I come from the fabulous state of Connecticut, wonderful city, of the great city of New Haven, Connecticut. I represent all that. But I also was raised in the projects in New Haven, Connecticut, Aspen Street Project. Well, actually, I was on Webster Street, 47 Webster, which is right by Aspen Street Projects. But 22 of my family members were in the same housing complex, in the same project. So you have to understand the framework of which I'm working with when we talk about generational, generational curses. And I say poverty is a curse. Let me just clarify that. I say poverty is a curse. And people say, curse, Roberta, why would you say curse? Well, when you think about the word curse, you think about something invisible and you think about something bad. So the effects of poverty, meaning lack of income or lack of obtaining those things we desire, that's the effects, that's what happens, but it really starts with a mindset and a determination and thought processes from our family and where we start with, and many people start at different places, but I'll break that down at another time. But for me, that's how I was raised, and I had my first boyfriend. He left my house one night and got shot gunpoint to his chest and got killed, my first boyfriend. My son's father was a drug dealer, and he was looking at doing a lot of time in jail when I'm pregnant with him, with my son. And, that was my reality. So it hit me when I gave birth to my brown boy. And here I am, a 17-year-old. Had nothing to offer him. His father was a drug dealer. Everybody in my family, we're all looking at poverty as if it's normal. But statistics told me that I was going to lose my son because he's a brown boy, simply because of who I was or who I wasn't. That the stats were against him, that I would lose him to the jail cells, I would lose him 6 feet under, and I would lose him hustling to the streets. And because that was my reality, and I'm looking at him, it was scary. So I knew, though, and I went to church, and all this is in my book in more detail. But I went to church, and I've been praying. I was praying, and I'll never forget. Some people believe in prophecy, and some people don't. I believe in it because I've seen it come true in my life. And the guy came, and he said to me, your life is directly linked to your son's life. It sounds simple, right? But that hit home because I realized that in order for my son to have the life that I wanted him to have, I had to make it happen for him. And so that's when things began to change. It began to change, and I began to push, not as my life depended on it. It was because my son's life depended on it. And today I'm very proud to say that he's a college graduate. He's in graduate school right now. He is the only African-American professor at the school of which he teaches English, and he's a faculty member. And he's young. He's the youngest one there, and he's only African-American. So my baby survived, and the poverty curse has been broken over him. So, yeah.
Yes, and we thank God for that. Not only because, one, it just takes that moment when you say, hey, this is what I don't want anymore, and let's take that step to say, it's done, and I'm moving away, and I'm eliminating the things that are distracting me. I'm eliminating the people that are distracting me. I'm eliminating things that are going to get me off track, and I'm going to push for the goals that I have. Okay?
And that's what it's about.
So, yes, that's exactly what it's about. But, we don't do any of this on our own. I want you to speak about your grandparents and how they influenced this process.
My godparents. It was my godparents.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry, your godparents.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It was my godparents, Cynthia and Robert Pulley. They, I just finished doing an interview because in a book called Grateful Woman that's being published in a couple of weeks. But I just finished doing an interview for that book, and I talked about problems are not problems, they're platforms and opportunities. And as we learn how to view life through those lens, that we take the sting away from the enemy when we realize that the problems that we have in our life are really going to be the things that help us and propel us. And so with my godparents, I'm grateful that they came into my life, but they came into my life at the lowest point of my life, and this is when I was in a homeless shelter. So they came and they took me out of a homeless shelter. But see, this is how God works. Had I not been in a situation where I was homeless, had I not been in a shelter, then they wouldn't have taken the time to come and take me out of the shelter and bring me into their home. I had already said I have 22 family members that lived in the same projects. And so I had never seen the inside of a single family house. And so today, to be a president of a company that has housed over 5,000 families, but I was a kid that never even saw the inside of a single family house until they brought me into their home with them. And they were the first ones to say to me that I don't care what life looks like. I don't care who's stacked against you. I don't care who gave up on you. I don't care who's doubting you. I don't care who wrote you off. You are still destined for greatness. And they said it over and over and over again that I began to believe them. And faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing. And so I stand before you today only because that they allowed God to use them, and they spoke into my life, and they changed my life. They changed the whole direction of my life by getting into my mindset to let me know that it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you end, and that they saw greatness in the midst of my chaos. And so I'm forever grateful to Robert and Cynthia Pulley, forever grateful, forever.
And is that also where the Millionaire Mindset name came from? And, like, how do you go in and transition anybody that you see, anybody that you speak to, anybody in your sisterhood? How do you go in and transition the way that they see their mind? Because our mind is such a powerful thing.
Yeah, and so, I enjoy doing seminars. I do seminars all over. I've been traveling, doing seminars and training on how do you develop a millionaire mindset. I have a training that I did called Unleash Your Power, and that right there was powerful, unleashing your power, and that right there talked about how our mindset operates and our ability to control it and our ability to unleash it. And, my godparents, when I had to sit back and say, how did I end up a little bit different than the people around me, I do attribute it to my godparents of them speaking into my life and believing in me and just saying, it doesn't matter what it looks like. But what they did is they changed my thought process of myself. And so I believe that when we change our thought process of ourselves, that's when we start acting differently and we start doing differently. So as I go around training people on real estate, I'm always peppering mindset. Because you can have a blueprint on how to become a multimillionaire, but if you don't have the mindset and the confidence level to implement the blueprint, it would just be more papers. It would just be papers. So the mindset is super powerful. And with the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood, we're all devoted to breaking the curse of poverty and women working in unity, which, of course, is going to be something that's always challenged because anything that God does, the devil tries to challenge. And, actually it's the ultimate compliment when things start going, when you're being challenged in life, because that means God is doing things, in your life. But the mindset is beyond powerful. I think that's one of the best gifts that God has ever given us was our mindset, the power of a decision and the power of a made-up mind.
Okay. And, Roberta, don't get me wrong. I love everything that you're saying. And I love it, one, because it comes from a spiritual place, and then it comes from a business place. And I want to hit on your business side, okay? So when you started your real estate business, what training do you need to start? I know you have a school, but what are some of the principles that you teach in your school? Because we have a lot of people that want to be real estate agents or want to invest in property. Even the movie Black Panther told us that we need to go back into our neighborhoods and purchase it. But, how do we actually, what are the tangible steps we need in order to begin that process? How much money do we need? What are the steps?
Well, number one, you got to have a made-up mind. That's number one. Number one, you have to know that you have to have a made-up mind. But the principles of real estate, it depends on how you want to get into real estate. Real estate is vast. I love, if you want to become a real estate agent, that is absolutely great because you can help buy and sell real estate for commissions and you can control your time, and that's great. And if you want to do that, then we do have the training at Outreach School of Real Estate where we teach principles and practices of real estate, and we prepare you for the state exam so that you can pass the exam and become a professional real estate professional. Now, if you want to get into investing, well, that's something totally different. And a lot of times people think that real estate agents are in real estate investing. They're actually two different parts of real estate. Real estate agents can definitely assist with the investing. And then there are real estate agents that do both. Now, as it relates to investing, there's a lot of strategies as it relates to investing in real estate. I made all of my money flipping properties. That's where most of my money came from, flipping properties. The first investment yielded me over $250,000. After actually was $337,000. My second flip was $175,000. My third flip was $140,000. So I made a lot of money flipping. So if you want to get started in flipping property, this is what I coach, and, you could go to connectwithroberta.com, and I could teach you, but you have to know numbers. You have to understand what ARV, which is an after repair value, is. You have to know ROI, which is a return on your investment, and you have to know your LTV, loan to value, that you would take out on a loan. You have to be able to control your cost. You have to know how to develop a real estate team and control your contractors, because unfortunately some contractors live up to their name and are contractors. So we don't want, in flipping properties and investing in real estate, most of the money is used and most of the money is lost in the rehab of the property. So it's important to be able to control that portion of it. I will be doing, as I've done before, and it's been very fun, and it's been good hands-on training, and I will be bringing this back where I do hands-on training for real estate investing and flipping properties, where we literally walk through a property with me, and we look at the property together, and I train my students on how do you look at this property, what are those things you need to be looking for, what do you need to stay away from, which houses are money makers and which houses are money takers. Real estate is vast. I've been doing it for a very long time, and there's so many directions. So that's why it makes sense to have a real estate coach or someone like myself, or a seasoned real estate coach. You don't want to ask for direction for someone that's not seasoned. Otherwise you'll just be in a vicious circle. You need to have someone to coach you that's seasoned and has tangible results in real estate. It's just huge. It's huge. Real estate's huge. So many ways to go.
Okay. Yes, and I feel like we're on that page. There's a lot of young people that want to take back their communities, and the first step is just to understand what you don't understand and know that it is tangible, and somebody just like you have started from the bottom and really brought your way up. And if you can do it, that means anybody can do it. It's not something that's unachievable.
Absolutely. I'm a brown girl from the hood. I say it all the time.
Not only are you a brown girl from the hood, but you have now mastered business development. Companies pay you money to come in and turn their business around. How did you get started in just doing business development and finding the gaps and the loopholes in which somebody can be making more money or they can improve a process? How did you get started there? And what are the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs are making as they progress in their business?
Well, I got it started doing and evaluating businesses, just helping people. And this is what I say to my Millionaire Mindset sisters. I say, what is that thing that you do for free? And then you monetize it, because that right there is your passion. And that's something that's innate, something that's in you. So for me, I don't necessarily know how I got an analytical mind, and God just really blessed me with that. But for business development, I was really helping other people get their businesses established and looking at their business model. So a lot of times we definitely need a business plan, but a lot of times we get so stuck on a business plan and the words on the paper that we don't look at how this business is going to make money. And that's what business models are. So to be able to build a business model, tweak a business model, and implement a business model is something that is often overlooked, but to me is the nucleus for business development.
And you said the nucleus, and for everybody out there in science, that means it's the brain. It's what you need, okay? Your business model is what generates your revenue time and time again. Mm-hmm. Okay? That is, listen, I'm putting some snaps here. All this is great. I'm loving the energy.
Yeah, and then, the other thing that I would suggest for new entrepreneurs is that when you're building your business model, and I teach this and I coach this as well, connectwithroberta.com. You can I would love to talk one-on-one. But the other thing that I teach is add-ons. And I think add-ons are overlooked often when we're looking at how our company makes money. So, for example, I use KFC a lot. What do they always market? Chicken, right? And so you'll see the advertising, finger licking good and all this other stuff. But when you get to KFC and you go through the drive-thru, they'll say Do you want some coleslaw with that? Do you want some french fries with that? Do you want a soda with that? All of those things are add-ons. And so those add-ons generate a lot of money as well. So I don't ever, when I'm teaching business development, I always talk about add-ons as well.
Yes. Okay. So entrepreneurs out there, one thing, don't limit yourself and always have something additional for your customer or your client to be able to purchase more. So it puts you more money into your bank.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I want to speak on gentrification. You know, because you are in the line of real estate, you can probably see where there are neighborhoods that were once all brown becoming gentrified. I would like to demystify maybe what gentrification is and what are some opportunities for us as African Americans or people of color to come back and take our ownership in the land that we grew up in. So I just want you to kind of speak on that, whatever you feel free to share, because that's something that I'm still unsure about. It's just like, what really is gentrification? And I live in New York. So, I mean, I understand Harlem being gentrified or Brooklyn being gentrified, but I don't really understand what's happening. I just know people are being moved away.
So for those who don't know anything about gentrification, in short, it's when companies come in or developers come in and they start rebuilding the community. But in rebuilding the company, they develop real estate that the people who previously lived in that community can no longer afford. And so that's happening a lot. And I have a company, I have a license, my real estate company is licensed in New York, and we have agents in Brooklyn. So in Brooklyn, I remember years ago, Brooklyn looked like Brooklyn. Right now I went to Brooklyn and people are outside on the sidewalks eating danishes and coffee, and it's just it's so different. So what happens when you developers come in, they increase the value of the property and increases the cost to live there, so people no longer can live in those areas. All right. So now my take on gentrification is there's two things you could do. You can complain about it and just be moved out, or you can put yourself in a position where you can benefit from it, because it's not going to go away. And so it's not going to go away. It's going to happen. Now, the way you put yourself in a position of power is one way and one way only, is ownership. You have to be able to own the land. You have to be able to own a house that you live in the neighborhood of which you live in. Because if you don't have any ownership, you don't have a voice. If you don't own where you live, then there's nothing you can do. You have no power. And so this is what I teach in my mortgage readiness program through Outreach Realty, is we get people ready for mortgages regardless of their credit and situations and financial situations that many times the African American community and other communities find themselves in, that prevents them from owning. So if you are in a situation where you know gentrification is happening, I suggest that you get on the other side of the equation and benefit from it. If you're the last person that they have to buy on the block, guess what? You're going to make the most money. And so it's going to happen. And if you own property, and if you want to try to fight against gentrification in your neighborhood, well, again, it goes back to ownership. Ownership is power. If you don't own, you don't have the power. You don't have a voice at the table. And so that's what I want to teach, and to make sure that people are aware. It's never too late. You know, it's never too late to own. We just, through our mortgage readiness program, we just gave a great-grandmother her first mortgage pre-approval. Because she went to one of my trainings and I talked about creating generational wealth. We need to create generational wealth. And then at the same day, I gave a mortgage pre-approval to the youngest person, and she was 22. So it's never too early, never too late. It's just we have to take ownership, and we have to control our communities. And the only way we do it is by owning the real estate where we live at in the community in which we serve.
Okay. So my next question is more centered around sisterhood. I know I'm in a sisterhood of my own with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, but Dr. Roberta, you're such a bad lady. You created your own sisterhood that not only focuses on the bonding of women, but making money. And I just want you to kind of go in depth on what is it different between maybe a Greek-led organization, what are some benefits and the value that you have. But you are doing this internationally, and how you're able to grow an international women's sisterhood. That's not just online, but people meet up in person.
Yep. So it's a faith-based, non-collegiate sorority, if that makes sense, right? So
Yes.
I'm always asking questions, and I believe in the law of polarity, where there's a law of opposites. So where there's an inside, there's an out. Where there's a hot, there's a cold. Where there's a question, there's always an answer. And so I'm always asking questions. And one of the questions is, I pose the question to myself, I said, how powerful would it be if there were women from all over the world that can get on one accord, and not only do we become a sisterhood, but we are intentional about our spending, where we essentially create our own economy. And so that is so powerful, and some people say, Roberta, you are really thinking like that, or you really think that could be done? And the answer is absolutely yes, because it's already started, and it's just beginning. We're about to be one in April. So the sisterhood. See, the thing is, it goes back to the mindset, Jasmine. When we first talked, we started talking about the mindset. Whatever you can see in your mindset and you can believe in your heart, you can achieve it. And so I totally believe that thing. And so that's why I'm able to be able to create and be the founder of the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood, which is the rise of the 21st century sisterhood. There's no sisterhood that I know of. Like you said, there's Greek sororities, and those are wonderful sisterhoods, but those are 1900s. This is the rise of the 21st century sisterhood, and we've done enough women. We're powerful. We've done enough backbiting. We've done enough talking about our sisters, and you know what? We've done enough crying and complaining. Now it's time to start fixing and making some money and doing it together. And I know the power in unity, and especially if we're putting God first, that there is absolutely nothing impossible, and I stand by that. The Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood is the 21st century sisterhood devoted to breaking the curse of poverty. And even within our first year, we have had, I want to say, 8 women create their own businesses that were just thoughts before, but now they're streams of income. We may have even more than that, 8 off the top of my head. We have so many sisters that are creating other streams of income and getting insurance, like $1 million insurance, and understanding the power of wealth. And that hasn't been done before. It's the 21st century sisterhood. It is God's design. It's the rise of the 21st century sisterhood. And honey, I invite you to join as well. There's no conflict with Greek organizations because we're not Greek. This is faith-based. That's like I say, and it's a conflict for you to go to church and you have a sorority. There's no conflict. It's just women working together, devoted to breaking the curse of poverty, creating generational wealth. I believe in something called signing our own paychecks and controlling our money. So it's powerful. It's very powerful. And let me just let you know and let the world know that the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood is here to stay. We are here, and when we sit at the table, we plan over 100 years out. I'm not talking about no okie doke, but 1 year, 2 year until we get upset with each other. This sisterhood is planned 100 years out. And when I walk down Morgan University, where my daughter is, I saw the founders of the AKA up on the wall, and I saw that, and it resonated within my spirit, because all I could see is the founding members of the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood, because right now we're making history. I could see 100 years from now that my picture and the sisters' pictures that are all over, that the sisters, I have 67 founding members of the Millionaire Mindset Sisterhood, that our names, our pictures will forever go down to history, just like the founders of the AKA, just like the founders of the Delta, just like that. But it's devoted to us creating generational wealth and breaking this wretched poverty curse. It is powerful beyond measure, and the world has just seen it.
Yes, and you know something, Dr. Roberta, I definitely know that your sisterhood is going to flourish for not only now but hundreds of years to come. Because one thing about Black women, not only do we save elections, but we save each other, and then we save our kids, And you know what? I just want to speak on this, Dr. Roberta. You are a wife. You are a mother. How do you do this? How are you balancing all of these things? I know on your Instagram, your husband, he's I guess a basketball coach from my understanding, and like you're at all his games, you got signs up, you're supporting. Like, how are you balancing all the things that you do? Just talk to us about it.
It's a team building. You know, I'm nothing without my team. You know, I'm the face of Outreach Realty, but I have phenomenal agents. I have phenomenal teams. You know, my real estate school wouldn't, you know, I have phenomenal teachers, Shirley Moore. Like, she's all of that. I love her to pieces. You know, there's teams. It's not, I'm the face, but there's so many working parts behind it. And as it relates to me being a supportive wife as much as possible, when I first started dating my husband, I knew what I was up for, and this is my second marriage. And so I learned a lot from my first marriage, so I knew what I had to make as a priority getting into it. And so because of that, when I first started dating him, I started planning. This is how analytical I am all the time. I started planning how do I put myself in a position where I could work from anywhere. I don't necessarily have to be tied to the office, and that's where I am today. So I could work anywhere. You could drop me in the desert. I could work if I wanted to, but I control my time, and that's the powerful thing, so that I can be at every one of my husband's game. And by the way, he just won a championship, and New Haven Register will be announcing him as Coach of the Year again. Like, I'm super proud of this man, and, you know, balance is not an easy thing, but it's a necessary thing because, you know, you all work, no play is no good, and all work and not having a stable relationship at home is going to throw off everything. So I'm grateful for being intentional about balance. And I got the right husband, because you have to know everybody can't deal with me.
I mean, I completely agree. And I guess for type A women like yourself that are just go-getters and ambitious, you know, how do we take that step back and make sure that we honor our husbands or our future husbands or our future mates, where they not only know that we're handling our business, but we're also handling our relationship, and we know how to take it a step down. Like, we're the CEO here, but like in our house, we like, no, you know, we take it a step down. So do you have any techniques that you use, you know, just to make sure that your husband knows that he's the CEO in the marriage and all that good stuff? Or like, what's y'all structure like, or just something to help the ladies out here that are type A just like myself?
Listen, I told you this is my second marriage, right? So I got it right this time, hopefully. But what I literally do, like, here's my secret. It's not a secret now because I'm putting it out there. I literally have to talk to myself because I am running a mile a minute. So you can ask anybody who's in my circle. I'll be like, oh my gosh, right now I'm the wife hat. Right now I got to be the wife. 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 I literally have to speak myself, talk to myself into shifting at my roles. But that also goes with being 100% present at where you are. So if I'm at work, like right now I'm doing this interview, this podcast, I'm 100% present with you. Right now I'm not being the wife. Right? And when I when I'm running the company, I'm 100% present there. When I'm the chieftain of the sisterhood, I'm 100% present there. And when I am the wife, and when I am home, I'm 100% present in my role as a wife and as my role as a mom. And they don't care nothing about the titles. They don't care about all this stuff I got going on. And I, you know, only talk about it if necessary. But it's important to be fully present in the moment of which you are in, so that you can create a balance. And for ladies and for all the go-getting women, I'm not going to say to dull yourself down. Always be the authentic you. But the power in being a powerful woman is that you have the power to make your man be even more powerful. And so in that, you know, we have to continue to nurture and to grow our spouses as much as we can, and vice versa. They should nurture and grow you as they can as well. But we never want to have a point where we're up here and they're down here. No, that doesn't work. It's a growth that needs to be done together. We have the power to bring the best out of our spouses, and like no one else can.
Mm. Roberta, Dr. Roberta, you saving some young ladies out here. You saving us. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And humble pie. We gotta be humble.
Yes, be humble. My next question is, what's next for you, Roberta? You got 10 years. What's next on the agenda? I know you plan for 100, but what's the next project? What's your next 10 years looking like?
International business. We already started making plans to open Outreach School of Real Estate in Nigeria. We already have that in the works, and it's bring the sisterhood to Nigeria as well. But I'm going to push this sisterhood as much as I can and make it be as successful as it can be in my lifetime before I pass the baton. I want to continue to nurture and bring as many people as possible along with me to a place of prosperity and a place of wealth. I have my first book coming out, The Poverty Curse Broken, but in 10 years I know that there are going to be other books. There are going to be sequels that come out. I already have an idea for the next book, and that's going to be a mindset book. So I envision more writing, more speaking engagements, more teaching, more inspiring and motivating people, but not motivating people for a moment, and that's the difference. I want to motivate people to move, motivate people into action, motivate people into change, and that's going to be my life mission. So, 10 years from now, I do know the biggest thing would be more of my books out, but also the international business and international sisterhood will be in full effect by that time.
Okay. And I got one last question.
Yes.
What does walking by faith mean to you?
Woo! Jesus, Lord have mercy. We about to go to church. What does walking by faith mean to me? Walking by faith means to me is to believe in the things that you do not see. And the reward of faith is to see those things physically that we didn't see before. To believe in the invisible to make that invisible become visible. I'll break that down a little bit. We must believe in the invisible so that it can become visible. And so faith is something that we don't see, right? So God is without faith, it's impossible to please God. See, I understand that my whole existence is merely just to please God. So if without faith it's impossible to please God, then everything about me has to be faith. And that's what it is with me. Everything about me has to be faith. Walking by faith. Creating a sisterhood was a faith project. Starting my business was a faith project. Starting the real estate was a faith project. Creating a book was a faith project. Everything has to do with faith. We have to give God something to work with, and that is our faith. And understand that everything that was ever created in this world first was created two times. It was created two times. First in our imagination and then into the world. Even this phone that we're on right now, not too long ago, was in someone's imagination and it wasn't even in the world. The iPhone, at one point it wasn't even a mobile phone wasn't even around. We had the phones on the wall, but it was in someone's imagination. It was invisible, and now it became visible. So everything that's created, even the car at one point was invisible, and then it became visible. But so everything, if you look around, is a result of faith. Because the invisible portion of it, it took faith to manifest it into the physical. And so that if we understand how powerful faith is, and God says if we have faith of the mustard seed, powerful, faith is beyond powerful. Everything around us is a result of faith. And I live my life by it. I live my total existence by faith.
Thank you.
Total existence.
And
total existence.
My goodness. This podcast has been amazing. I always like to tie in a Bible scripture that really talks about what we talked about in our podcast. And one scripture came to mind. It was Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And that just simply means that, one, we're breaking generational curses. We're going in and understanding real estate investing. We're understanding saving. We're understanding sisterhood and how to put our money together. We're understanding that the power that we have is in our mind. And if we can give our children's children just a mindset to know that they can go and be more than what they previously saw, they can do anything.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that Bible scripture definitely spoke so much to me. And the last one was Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. I feel like that just simply says ownership. Understanding that you don't need to take more than you can pay. Everybody out there in debt that thinks it's cool to, have more clothes and jewelry and, have things that you don't necessarily own, or you have a $300 purse but you got $30 in it. That's not, you're not in control of your life. You're still a slave to the lender. Somebody else is still in control. And so what your kids will have is something, that same mindset. Oh, it's okay to have $300 of goods, but, we're still renting. We don't even own where we live. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see in the African-American community. We don't own anything, but it's okay because people are going to develop the mindset. People, I have faith that we can change. I have faith that we can be the Black Panther, Wakanda-ism that we saw in the movies. I know that we can have that with more people like you, Dr. Roberta. And so I just want to say thank you for coming to this podcast because one, I didn't pay you to do this. You did this out of the goodness of your heart. You responded to some girl that reached out to you on Instagram. And I just want to say thank you for taking time to bless the Walk by Faith family, because I promise you, they may not have physically met you, but after today and after they listen to your podcast, they're going to know something more than what they came with. And that's the importance of it. Knowledge is power. Your mindset is power. Ownership is power. And you touched on each one of those points. And the biggest thing that I can take away is that you were a brown girl from the hood. And look at where you are now. So, listeners, if she can do it, I know you can. I want to drop the mic. Look, drop the mic.
And you be encouraged. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you putting this podcast together. Continue to have the faith. Obviously this was something that at some point wasn't visible and now is visible. So,
yes,
keep doing what you're doing. God is all in it, and more people need to be like you. So thank you again for even having me on this show.
You're welcome. And you guys, this is it for our podcast. I want to see you next week on another episode of the Walk by Faith Show. Thank you, guys.